good evening. Welcome. This is Hot Edition. We're live from Abata Desawe Kanda, also live on Kesmi 107.1 in Tamale and beyond. We're live on W 93.5 in Wa and beyond. I am Alfred Ocansey.
And I'm Christabel Success Trevor.
Hello, and we're getting to the details this evening here on Hot Edition. The security situation in Kwanta South fast deteriorating as residents flee to safety amid rising tensions. We have the latest for you. Also, the Ghana Bar Association reiterates its call for the suspended Chief Justice to be reinstated. 3 police confirm arrest of also former Gihok Distilleries Managing Director, that is Maxwell Kofijima, in connection with some stolen company assets. Stay with us. We've got details for you here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. We're also on Kesmi 107.1 in Tamale. We're live on W 93.5 in Wa and beyond on COVID-19. A virus creeping back fast than reported. That's according to Noguchi virologists warning of the resurgence. Stay with us. We've got details for you here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. Remember, as always, we're streaming live on Facebook at 3FM 927. Also on YouTube at 3FM 927. Let's settle for a summary of the news now.
And tonight's summary is the Ashanti Regional Police Command has arrested 9 robbery suspects in connection with recent residential armed robberies within the Kumasi metropolis. Police say the operation led to the death of 1 suspect who sustained gunshot wounds during an exchange of fire with police service. He was rushed to the hospital but was pronounced dead. Another suspect who also sustained gunshot wounds is currently receiving treatment at the hospital under strict police guard. The Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources says it is taking steps to streamline and regulate the operations of task forces involved in the fight against illegal mining, also known as Galamsey, following growing concerns from the small-scale miners about persistent intimidation and extortion. This follows complaints from the Ghana National Association of Small-Scale Miners, which raised alarm over what it described as harassment by multiple teams allegedly operating under the National Anti-Illegal Mining Operations Secretariats. Also, services at the National Identification Authority, NIA, have resumed after several days of disruption caused by an indefinite strike by staff over the delayed payment of the operational support allowance. The resumption of work follows engagements with key stakeholders, including the National Labour Commission, NLC, and the Ministry of Finance, aimed at resolving the impasse. Ghana is set to receive a $360 million boost from the World Bank to support its efforts in stabilizing the economy and building resilience for long-term growth. The funding, approved by the World Bank Board of Executive Directors, falls under the second Resilient Recovery Development Policy Finance and Operation. It forms part of a broader strategy to aid Ghana's recovery from recent economic shocks and support key reforms aimed at job creation and improved living standards. Just before I go, the Ghana Journalists Association, GJA, national and executive elections are currently taking place at the designated voting centers across the country, and this is one we would keep an eye on. For more news, you can log on to 3news.com. Over to you, Alfred.
Let's get into the details of the stories now here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. We're also on Kesmi 107.1 in Tamale and on W 93.5 in Wa and beyond. A very troubling detail we're getting from Nkwanta South, because the security situation there in Nkwanta South municipality of the OT region is fast deteriorating yet again as residents begin to flee the area. This follows the burning of the residents of the Achode chief in Bonache. Now, the latest incident has led to some additional deaths from what we're hearing, though the number is yet to be confirmed. 3 persons lost their lives over the weekend following the renewed clashes. The development has led to the beefing up of security in the area. All schools have also been shut down as a precautionary measure. Now, the Voter Regional Correspondent Faisal Abdul Idris, who has also been closely monitoring the situation in the neighboring region, that is the OT region, is going to be joining me on the telephone shortly. We'll have a quick conversation with Faisal Abdul Idris to get some more details. Here's what we do know, that when this incident started, this clash clashes started about some 3 days ago. The Ghana Education Service ordered the immediate closure of the Nkwanta Senior High School in the Oti region after a tribal violence in the area escalated, resulting in 3 students being shot within 2 days. Now, the decision follows urgent consultations between education authorities and security officials. On Thursday, June 26th, that was last week, 2 female day students sustained gunshot wounds while on their way to school. The violence continued on Friday, June 27, when a male student was killed by a stray bullet inside his classroom during mock examination. The acting regional director of education confirmed arrangements are underway to provide police escort for all students returning home. So that's the information we have. The unfortunate incident that led to the death of the student, and then what we're hearing now, that the security situation in this Nkwanta South municipality in the Oti region is fast deteriorating. Faisal Abdul Idris is our Volta regional correspondent. He's also monitoring the happenings in the Oti region. He's joining us on the telephone right now. Faisal, what's the detail that you've gathered so far about the current security situation in the Nkwanta South area?
Well, so yesterday there was another tension that escalated in Bonati, one of the communities in the municipality. From the information I've gathered so far, several properties were set ablaze, including the home of the chief of Bonati. Then, during that escalation, 2 persons also sustained gunshot injuries and succumbed to their injuries. As I speak to you, several institutions, including banks and the hospital, I was talking to authorities a while ago, and they are telling me that even the hospital has been asked to shut down, except for a few essential services to be provided, particularly within this critical time. So almost every facility in Kota has been shut down as I speak to you.
And how about the residents as well? We're hearing reports of they fleeing to safety as a result of what's happening there. Are you able to give us a bit more detail on this?
Alfred, please, I didn't hear that.
I was asking about the residents as well, and we're hearing reports of they fleeing to safety. Are you able to give us a bit more detail on that?
Yes, it has been the case since the escalation started over the last week. A number of them have deserted their homes. They go to the main market area within the several people have left their home. It's the same case with the MTN office area. Almost every home around that area now being deserted by the residents. In the weekend, for example, there were people from that were so lively and going about with their normal daily activities. And almost everything has now been brought to a halt because of what happened yesterday here.
I see. And just for the uninitiated, exactly when did this violence, which has been described as basically tribal violence, start? Unfortunately, we lost Faisal Abdul Idris, but we'll try to reconnect with him to get some more updates on this, the rather unfortunate incident. Now, what we're hearing is that the tension and fear continues to grip residents of Nkwanta South municipality of the Oti region, leaving 2 more Konkomba youths in critical condition. That's the update we're getting. The 2 individuals, Ujakwa Nakoja and Niyasangma Joseph, both from Power, a farming community in Nkwanta South, were shot by unknown gunmen at Abrewanko Junction, and the 2 victims were rushed to the nearest facility, that's a St. Joseph Hospital and Medical Village, for treatment, all in the Nkwanta South municipality. The latest development has also sparked widespread concern for peace, bringing the Konkomba prominent personalities, including Dr. Joshua Makubo and Deputy Superintendent of Prisons, that's Daniel Machato, both former Oti regional ministers, and also Ubotasan Konja, the Sith, who's Basawura, appealing for calm and restraint. Now, they urge the Konkomba communities to allow law enforcement agencies to handle the issues rather than resorting to retaliation. And I would want to find out if this appeal would really make an impact, especially because of the history in that particular area, and whether this Konkomba community will leave the security agencies to do this investigation, or as the history has it, the likelihood of retaliation is really high. The man who's been following this quite closely is a security consultant, Richard Kumado. Mr. Kumado, good evening. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Alfred.
Well, the history that you know of this violence in this area in Kwanta South in the OT region is resurfaced again. Now, the latest we are hearing is that some two young men, individuals, both from Power, is a farming community in Kwanta South, all cucumbers, have been shot and in critical condition, and now the cucumber community is being appealed to leave the security agencies to do their work. How do you see this turning out?
No, definitely that's not going to work. What will make it work is when they have seen justice. And one way of seeing justice is that the perpetrators have been arrested and publicly punished or prosecuted. And that is when people will feel justice has come. Going by the history we know and the tendency of people being killed and perpetrators not being identified or arrested or punished publicly, it creates the nerves that people can take the law into their own hands. So I can understand the danger of retaliation and revenge, but then it's also important that the state must act as quickly as possible and make sure that they arrest the perpetrators who hide behind some of these chieftaincy and land entitlement conflicts and cause mayhem to our people.
See, but this has a history. I mean, from how you know the evolution of this conflict, what would be the best approach to ensuring that this is dealt with once and for all?
I think political leadership, not the politicians on the ground, because the matter have been suspected by now, but national leadership, government itself, will have to engage more and ensure that in the new form of dialogue, they will have to broaden it and bring in other people who have interest in this particular area when it comes to maintaining law and order and peace. On the side of security, I'm tempted to suggest that they will need to have a permanent monitoring base there, equipped with the capacity to pick up any red flag or warning signs so they can deal with it as quickly as possible. What has happened now might have taken the elements of the law enforcement officers by surprise. Why they didn't pick the elements of the warning signs and the red flags is another thing. Because I am aware intelligence have been picked about this particular, undertone and all that. Why they didn't act on it as quickly as possible is another thing the law enforcement officers must answer to themselves, because it's a shared responsibility. But seriously, I think they have a permanent base there, well equipped with the resources, then they will be able to pick up the red flag quickly, and these recurrences will be minimized until a permanent solution is found by government.
I see. Now we're hearing the latest of these two young men who have been shot and receiving treatment. Is there a high likelihood of retaliation, or the Konkomba community there would heed to this appeal from the Dr. Joshua Makubo and the DSP Daniel Machato?
The Chief's Palace was burned down. That is another red flag. Not quite long ago, weapons were seized heading towards into the area. That is another red flag. Two people have been shot dead. They saw them, no, not dead. They have been shot and receiving treatment at the hospital. People have seen that. These are three critical red flags. And it will take a little bit more, not just words of encouragement or words of temporary justice with mercy or something. I think we will need to walk in there with our chests out boldly for people to see that we care and we are doing something that will really bring peace, because word of mouth, while people are far and they are not closer to the situation, may fall on deaf ears, and that is my fear, considering the fact that this particular history looks similar to what happened in Tehorwe and looks similar to what is happening in Boko. We will need to use the strength and the patching systems we have created over the years and make sure we resolve it as quickly as possible before it gets out of hand.
And finally, before I let you go, what role would dialogue take in resolving this matter, this violence permanently in the area? I'm
also tempted to recommend or suggestively recommend that If the tool for mediation team or option has become a viable one, then we need to resource them and make sure that they take on more than just what is on their plate. Because it seems to me that one works faster than the other ones we have tried over the years that did not work. And it's also because of politics, because politics divides the people, and politics is very divisive. So whoever is head of dissect and research, and any little mistakes from them or perception about their movements and associations, even though it's perception, it can create a problem for the people in there. So you would need a central government in itself, together with the heads of the security, plus external people, probably from a 2-4 mediation team, who will take personal interest in this matter, and let's resolve it as quickly as possible.
So, Commodore, thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Nene.
So, Richard Commodore is a security consultant. You're so live here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. We're also on Kesmi 107.1 in Tamale and on W93.5 in YBO. If you're just joining us, the news coming through, the tension and fear continues to grip the residents of the Nkwanta South municipality of the Oti region, living two more Konkomba youth in the area in critical condition. The two individuals, Ujakwa Nakoja and Nesanyangba Joseph, both from Power, a farming community in Nkwanta South, were shot by unknown gunmen at Abrewankwa Junction. The two victims were rushed for treatment at the St. Joseph Hospital and Medical Village, all in Nkwanta South municipality. The latest development sparked widespread concern for peace, bringing the Konkoba prominent personalities to advocate for some dialogue, and that's what we've been having a conversation on. But some 19 minutes after 5 here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. We're also on Kesmi 107.1 in Tamale and on W93.5 in Wa and beyond. Let's go to matters relating to the suspended Chief Justice, shall we?
Yes, we shall. And the National President of the Ghana Bar Association, GBA, Ifwa Gate, has reiterated calls for the suspension of Chief Justice Gertrude Saki Tokonu to be reconsidered, warning that it sets a dangerous precedent for the country. Justice Tokonu was suspended on April 22, 2025, following 3 petitions alleging misconduct. A 5-member committee was established to investigate the claims, but the process has been shrouded in controversy. The GBA has previously demanded the revocation of her suspension, arguing that the procedures followed were unconstitutional and violated the rule of law. Speaking at the 43rd anniversary remembrance service of the 3 High Court judges murdered in 1982, Gate warned that the Chief Justice's suspension undermines judicial independence. She cautioned against endlessly settling scores and stressed the need to shield the judiciary from undue interference.
We should be careful as a nation not to go down the slippery slope of endless revenge by justifying various acts with the refrain, but others did that too. We then rose as a nation from the ashes like the phoenix and decided to conscientiously do better by making Ghana's democracy and pensions for the rule of law admirable and attractive to many worldwide. An independent judiciary, in its true sense, is a bulwark for all who seek justice and should be jealously protected. The judiciary's foremost attraction should be its glaring independent nature, credibility, and transparency. Hence the provisions in our 1992 Constitution seeking to guarantee same. The Ghana Bar Association, as well as other legal associations, both local and international, such as the Commonwealth Lawyers Association, Commonwealth Magistrates and Judges Association, and Commonwealth Legal Education Association, as a matter of principle, have made their voices heard on the ongoing process for the removal of the Chief Justice of Ghana, Her Ladyship Justice Gertrude A.S. Tokonu. It is hoped that any Superior Court judge will be well apprised of the entire process before ever being subjected to same in the spirit of fairness. Rising to the defense of the judiciary's independence is the mandate of the Ghana Bar Association, and this is not personality driven.
You just heard there Ifwa Gati, the national president of the Ghana Bar Association. The moderator of the Methodist Church of Ghana, Most Reverend Professor Kwabena Asamoah Jedu, has, however, chastised the Ghana Bar Association of what he described as political exposure of certain elements within the association. He called on the GBA to carry out an internal introspection to realign them to the original tenets. Meanwhile, former New Patriotic Party MPP General Secretary Kwabena Ejapong, speaking on the sidelines of the event, stated that the allegations against the Chief Justice were not serious enough to justify her removal. Over to you, Alfred.
Well, let's say a bit further on this matter. And this position by the Ghana Bar Association is not new. After their earlier meeting sometime in 2 months ago, they took this position that generated quite some conversation as well, and this is what they've reiterated. Sylvia Kuji is a senior private legal practitioner. He speaks for the Ghana Bar Association, and he's joining us on the telephone right now. Counsel, good evening. Thank you for joining us.
Good evening, Alfred. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Why do you narrow? I hear the president of the Bar Association talk about the entire process that is ongoing for the Chief Justice, the suspended Chief Justice, to also have a hearing on the petitions against her as some sort of vendetta, that it has been done before, so let it be done this time and nothing would be wrong with it. Why do you think this entire process is about a vendetta and not necessarily one that is a process enshrined in the Constitution that is playing out right now?
All right, thank you.
On the slippery slope.
Didn't hear the president of the bar say that. She used the word vendetta, but I honestly did not hear her use it relative to the suspension of the Chief Justice. What I heard her say in her speech was that the numerous calls for the reversal of the Chief Justice's suspension should be considered or reconsidered. And my understanding of this is that the process could have still been going on without necessarily the Chief Justice being suspended. That is my understanding. So let me reiterate. I did not hear the president of the bar say or use the word vendetta relative to the proceedings ongoing in respect of the removal of the Chief Justice, because she said so many things about the murdered judges. So I wonder how one would have come to that conclusion that the word vendetta was used in respect of the removal proceedings going on relative to the Chief Justice.
And just for the benefit of, because you're referencing exactly what she said, I don't want us to also get into the realms of directly quoting her and not getting it right. I wanted to take a listen to exactly what she said, and then we'll proceed with the conversation.
We should be careful as a nation not to go down the slippery slope of endless revenge by justifying various acts with the refrain, but others did that too. We then rose as a nation from the ashes like the phoenix and decided to conscientiously do better by making Ghana's democracy and penchant for the rule of law admirable and attractive to many worldwide. An independent judiciary, in its true sense, is a bulwark for all who seek justice and should be jealously protected. The judiciary's foremost attraction should be its glaring independent nature, credibility, and transparency. Hence the provisions in our 1992 Constitution seeking to guarantee same. The Ghana Bar Association, as well as other legal associations, both local and international, such as the Commonwealth Lawyers Association, Commonwealth Magistrates and Judges Association, and Commonwealth Legal Education Association, as a matter of principle, have made their voices heard on the ongoing process for the removal of the Chief Justice.
Essentially, and she makes that point at the beginning, as you heard there, and then continues to make these comments in direct reference to what is happening with the suspended Chief Justice. But you indicate that this process could have still gone on without she being suspended. I mean, exactly how could that have played out, and why do you think her suspension in any way is not right, as the Ghana Bar Association has indicated earlier today through your president?
Well, Alfred, I think these are administrative decisions that an employer, for instance, can take on an employee who is alleged to have done something wrong. You decide to suspend the person so that you can do the necessary investigation, or you allow the person to be at post whilst you do that. So these are discretionary matters. But what I want to establish is that the use of the word vendetta was not in respect of the ongoing process, because if you listen to the president of the bar very carefully, she was giving a background of what happened in 1992, 30th of June. And giving that background, from my understanding, what happened then shouldn't be happening now, because the judiciary must be independent. But we should not say that because it had happened before, it could be repeated. That is my understanding.
I see. How is this process in any way threatening the independence of the judiciary?
I think she didn't say that. What I'm saying is this. What she said is about the whole thing about the Chief Justice, as she said, was about statements issued by various associations, including the Commonwealth lawyers. She mentioned that. Then she went on to say that the many calls that are being made for the reversal of the suspension of the Chief Justice may have to be considered. And I said my understanding of that is that she's not talking about the process itself, but only the suspension, because if she had meant to speak about the process itself, she would have said it. And I understood it to mean that the Chief Justice could have still been at post while the processes continue.
But the Chief Justice being suspended has not violated any specific rule, has it?
It may not have, but it doesn't also take away the need for or the right of people to call for a reversal. I think people have the right to say that too.
Indeed, but what is the GBA against the 146 to 10 playing out as we are seeing in the Chief Justice's case?
The GBA is never against that. I think the concern has been that this is the first time this kind of proceedings is taking place relative to a sitting Chief Justice. That is the concern. So it is not as if the provisions in the Constitution are non-existent and cannot be applied. But the application process and the office concerned in what we're looking at, especially the fact that this is the first of its kind.
Okay, so what's the GBA's specific concern? If you're not against Article 146 to 10 playing out as we're saying now, so what exactly is your concern about this entire process?
I think I've said that listening to my president or the president of the bar, the understanding I had and still have is that the processes could have been going on while the Chief Justice still remained at post. She may not have been suspended, or there might not be a need for her to be suspended before the proceedings could go on.
But you know that would have been awkward, is it not? Because then, if, for instance, the all of these applications against the entire process by the likes of the old Tafo Member of Parliament, Vincent Tasefa, all of that came, the Chief Justice would have been the one to empanel on these cases, is it not? And so how would it have been if she was still at post and having to still play the role as CJ in these cases that were also seeking to challenge the constitutionality of a process against her?
The Chief Justice's role is that it's an administrative role. That's the way I see it. She can still remain the Chief Justice and yet decline the aspect of the rule that has to do with empaneling of judges. She can still be at post and be recruited from doing that.
But do you know that it's not just...
If that is the only concern, that she may have to empanel people to sit on cases that concern, of course, that is not the natural thing to do. So that aspect alone, she may have to recuse herself. But is that the only reason why she's been suspended? One may ask. If that's the only reason, then she could have been at post and yet recuse herself from playing that role of empaneling judges.
Well, I wouldn't want to play that role of second-guessing the reasons why, but I think it's quite clear that communication from the presidency that communicated to all of us the suspension of the Chief Justice and the processes that followed thereof. All of those thresholds had to be met for her suspension as enshrined in Article 146. But you indicated that you don't have a problem with the application of 146 to 10 as it's playing out now. But then again, your position is that she could have still stayed at post and not be suspended, and this process will still be at play. Eric Delano is the president
because your questions were based on the speech delivered by the bar president today.
Which is the
so
basis?
Looking at the content of the speech, that is what my mind tells me.
I see. But I want to find out if Counsel Eric Delano's mind also tells him in the same vein as you are thinking. He's the president of the Lawyers in Search of Democracy. I thank you so much for joining us here on Hot Edition. The position of the PRO of the Ghana Bar Association is that the Gato Tukono, her leadership, could have still stayed at post and not necessarily be suspended while this process of the hearing of the petitions against her goes on. Do you think same?
Well, I don't, but I really would not like to go into whether I think it was appropriate for her to be suspended or not. Rather, what I think all of us should be conscious of is that the authority to suspend her was there and is there, and that was why it was exercised. The Constitution says that upon the advice of Council of State, the President may suspend if they found prima facie and they establish a committee. So I don't want to go into the justification of the suspension. I don't want to go into that, although it will be ridiculous that she will still be opposed, like you said, the question you asked the PRO, she will still be opposed, and then matters are coming to the court to challenge her removal process, and then she will be empaneling. And I hear the PRO saying that, if that is the only reason that is administrative, and then she may not have to empanel. But there were several cases, several precedents where the Supreme Court says that the person who is the Chief Justice, who is acting as the Chief Justice, has to perform that administrative role. Whatever the case, the person has to do it. And so it would have been a different challenge if she were there, and then a matter goes there, and then people will begin to make the argument that, this matter concerns her, so she shouldn't empanel. That would be something else we'll be discussing, and I wouldn't be surprised to hear the Bar Association and the PRO, all of them arguing again that the Chief Justice, so he should do it. You see, and then I hear one funny argument that the PRO is making. It's saying that one of their problems is that it's because this is the first time. So would there ever be the first time? They don't expect any first time for the Constitution to be applied. There will always be a first time. So if they have a problem because it's the first time, then when shall we ever have a first time? You see, so anytime it is going to happen, they will say it's the first time, so don't do it. It's the first time, don't do it. That is what I'm reading from this. So if they don't ever want to have a first time, then we are not going to have a second time. We are not going to have a third time. And so that provision, the provision of Article 146, will never be applied. So isn't that ridiculous? So the Bar Association is struggling. They are struggling too much on this. It's a very simple matter. Look, the Constitution says that any citizen, the only way we participate in the delivery of justice is also to report if we see anything wrong with how our judges are conducting themselves. So the Constitution gives us the right and says that, look, if we see anything like that, petition. And then the Constitution says that, President, if you receive a petition, do 1, 2, 3, 4. So right now, all that we have to look for is whether there was a petition. If there was a petition, is the President acting in accordance with what the Constitution says the President must do? If he's doing so, we just have to fold our arms. and watch. And the president is doing that. Then they will tell you that we don't think that they are violating anything, and yet it's the first time. So we don't want any first time. And so we will never want any second time. And so there will never be any third time. And so that provision in the Constitution should be redundant forever. It doesn't. And lawyers should not be making this argument. Ghana Bar Association should not engage itself in this kind of, I don't know, but it's just not right. So I don't believe in what they are saying. I don't think that the bar should be engaged in this kind of arguments and saying that because it's the first time, that's why it is a problem for them. And so what should we do? So the petition came, so the president should throw the petition away. The president, the Constitution, the president, and the Council of State must evaluate the petition, and if there's prima facie, they must establish a committee. So what they are saying is that the president and the Council of State, in their mind, they think there's a prima facie. They must still say that, no, there's no prima facie, or we shall not act. Is that what they are saying? Is that what they are saying? I'm not getting them. They should stop struggling to confuse the public. That's what I have to say to this.
Essentially, I asked a question about whether they have any concerns or they disagree with the application of the dictates of Article 146(6)-10 as it's playing out in the Chief Justice suspension as we speak. That they don't have a problem. They don't.
Yeah, I heard that the PRO says the only concern is that it's the first time. Isn't that strange? It's the first time, so it should not be applied. He said that's his concern. So should they ask him again? Should he ever be applied? Ask him that. If he ever will be applied, then that time that it will be applied will be the first time anyway, wouldn't it be? So I look, this kind of argument, I don't know, you know. So the bar, you know, when they are doing this, and all of us are members of the bar, and when they are making this kind of argument, and we have to confront them or argue against their position, then it appears as though we are being frontal to the bar. But because they are making arguments that do not make much sense to us, even lawyers, even to even the public, you are saying, look, the president has not violated any part of the Constitution. The president, when the president was elected and was sworn into office, he was given a set of laws, set of rules. That was the Constitution, and said that go and operate this. This is what we are giving to you. Implement this. And in the Constitution, it says that if you receive a petition to remove any justice of the Superior Court or the Chief Justice, do 1, 2, 3, 4. Move in accordance with these steps. The president receives a petition. Look, he didn't instigate it. Even if he instigated it, we don't know, and we cannot make the argument. The fact is that what we know is that there were petitions, 3 petitions. He received the petitions. The president is acting upon the petition, is going strictly according to the Constitution. Until today, they cannot find anything the president has done that is wrong. And yet they are struggling. Let's find something somewhere. Let's find some debt somewhere. And they are struggling. They don't, and lawyers are struggling, bringing this, bringing that, and all of them are not making sense. They're not making sense. And so you come on radio, and then you say that, oh, well, the president is not doing anything wrong because it is the first time we don't want him to do it. It is the first time, so we don't want him to do it. So it's never been applied. So no president should ever apply it, because anytime a president will be applied, there will be a Ghana Bar Association that will say that it's the first time, so don't do it. So it's never going to be done. If that is what they want, they should tell us.
I see. Mr. Kuche, so that's the contrary view. I mean, the argument of it being a first time doesn't really bar the Constitution from essentially being applied if the first time around it to be done, is it not?
Alfred, I think that if you cast your mind by back when our resolution was passed, we were saying that there ought to have been laid down regulations before this is done. The argument be the first time. Yes, people have made it. We've also made it just because this is the first of its kind. Because chief justices have not gone through this before. So if we say it's the first time, that doesn't mean it shouldn't be done. But it is true, it's the first time. Nobody can run away from that. That is why, because you asked me a question about today's speech by the president of the bar. Her concern has to do with the suspension. She never mentioned anything about 146. And don't forget, she also made a point that processes involved must be made known to the affected people or the affected Superior Court judge. the tape you played, the sound bite you played a while ago. She said something like that.
Right. No, but yes, she said she didn't mention 146. She referenced the suspension. The suspension is not an action in oblivion. The suspension is as a result of the implementation and execution of 146. Is it not?
I agree, but let us. You see, she was specific as to what her concern was. She talked about suspension. 146 is not only about suspension; it's about other things. So if she had wanted to say the other things, she would have said them. That is my point. Because she was specific.
So what is the concern?
The cause for suspension.
What exactly is?
No, hold on. Mr. Delanyo, hold on, I'll come to you. Yes, Mr. Kuje, okay. You're making a point. Yes.
I was saying that 146 is not only about the suspension of the Chief Justice. It's about the whole process. And I am saying that if the bar president had wanted to mention some other aspects of the processes under 146, she would have done that. But she limited herself to the suspension. So when you called me, you said that she said they were doing it, it's going on because of vendetta. And I corrected you that she used the word vendetta though, but not in relation to the ongoing processes involving the suspension of the Chief Justice.
I see. Well, maybe let's draw down the curtains on this. Delanyo, that clarification is not convincing for you still?
Sorry.
No, not
Why
at all. The suspension is part of 146. It's part of it. It's part of the process. And so if and you see, we have to understand it. It is not for us to evaluate whether the matter is weighty enough for the president to suspend or not, because the Constitution, what it says is that, look, if upon advice of the Council of State, the president may suspend, and they have done that. The president told us that he was advised duly by the Council of State. And so if anybody thinks that is wrong, the right forum to challenge it is at the court. And this whole issue about the processes must be given to the Chief Justice and all of that, these are all things that they are just pushing because they are just searching. This expedition, can we find something to obfuscate this whole process? Because it's a very simple process in 146. Even a child can just pick it and read it and see that the process is being followed. So I don't know. So they are struggling. They are really, really struggling, and I pity them. So they will do themselves good when they stop struggling and putting up all these arguments and because it's not making sense to anybody. So the president is doing the right thing because the Constitution. Because there were petitions and he had to act on the petitions. He acted on the petitions. In fact, even before he would say that the Prima Facie was determined, there were already suits in court challenging. The Chief Justice had already written and said, well, I want copies. The President gave her copies. They waited, and the response came. And then in consultation with the Council of State, they came out and said that, well, we found Prima Facie. And so, well, with the warrant, we are suspending you, which is also duly authorized by the Constitution. They did that. And then the process is going on. It's going on. And so, well, they are just crying wolf. That's the way I see it. And I'm ashamed that it is the Ghana Bar Association that is doing this.
Well,
so perhaps we may have to do another press conference. Lindsay may have to do another press conference to address these things.
Anyway, we'll see how the coming days will look like on this. But I thank you very much, gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us. Mr. Delanyo, thank you for your time. Also to you, Mr. Xavier, could you appreciate you, as always, for joining us. Thank you so much.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Okay, now that's Xavier Kuje is Public Relations Officer of the Ghana Bar Association. Also, you just heard Eric Delanyo Aklo, who is the president of the Lawyers in Search of Democracy.
The Police Criminal Investigation Department, CID, has confirmed the arrest of Maxwell Kofi Juma, the former managing director of Gehok Distilleries. He is currently in custody at the CID headquarters in Accra. Mr. Juma was apprehended on Sunday, June 29, at his residence in Kumasi, Ashanti region, and later transferred to Accra following a formal complaint by Gehok Distilleries. The ex-Asokwa legislator faces allegations of financial misconduct, including the unauthorized sale of company assets and questionable vehicle acquisitions during his tenure at the state-owned distillery. At a news conference, CID Director General DCOP Lydia Yakodonko provided further details on the case.
Mr. Maxwell Kofi Juma was arrested based on a complaint or a petition that was submitted to us by the Gayhawk Distilleries Company Limited. We received a petition to the effect that some vehicles which were the property of that company had been stolen by the said Maxwell Kofi Juma. Warrants for arrest was properly secured, and that was the basis for which he was arrested, and he's in our custody at the CID headquarters and is assisting with investigation. I must mention that as at this afternoon, we have retrieved 3 vehicles. So the said vehicles that were stolen by him have been retrieved. So he's really assisting us with the investigation, and then we will take it up from there. Yes. Thank you.
CID Director General DCOP Lydia Iyako Donko. The police has also been providing updates on the case involving the Ashanti Regional Chairman of the NPP, Bernard Ntwi-Busiako, popularly known as Wontumi, who's currently on bail following his arrest in connection with alleged illegal mining operations in the Tano Nimri Forest Reserve.
Mr. Maxwell Kofi Juma was arrested based on a complaint that was... Yes, that case is also actively ongoing. Chairman Wontumi has visited us a couple of times. He's also actually supposed to be coming back to us sometime this week. Unfortunately, he was ill. His lawyer submitted a letter to us that he was ill, and I believe he's now okay because we have communicated to them that he should be seeing us this week, and they have responded. So that investigation is also actively ongoing. I must mention that he's not the only one we've arrested or we are investigating. There are a number of people that we are considering persons of interest. Last week, for example, he had a partner, Wan Akwoku, who was part of the investigation to do with Akunta mining. He was also arrested here and detained. We've taken statements from him and we are continuing with that investigation. So I want to assure you that that particular investigation is actively ongoing, and when we are done, we will definitely inform the public on the final action.
The minority in Parliament has strongly criticized the Economic and Organized Crime Office (EOCO) over the arrest and bail conditions imposed on Alhaji Abdul Hanan Wahab, the former CEO of the National Food Buffer Stock Company and New Patriotic Party parliamentary candidate for the Pusiga constituency in the 2024 general elections. In a press statement issued over the weekend, the minority described the treatment of Mr. Wahab and his wife as unacceptable and politically motivated, warning against what they say is a growing trend of state institutions being used to settle political scores. According to the minority caucus, EOCO conducted a coordinated arrest of Mr. Wahab and his wife on June 25 in both Accra and Tamale, treating them as though they were fugitives. The couple is currently under investigation for alleged tax evasion, money laundering, and causing financial loss to the state. However, the caucus noted that these are only allegations and no formal charges have been proven in courts. The minority has criticized the bail conditions granted to the couple. Mr. Wahab was also given a bail amount of 50 million Ghana cedis with 2 sureties, both of whom must justify the full amount in assets. His wife was also granted bail at 30 million Ghana cedis with 1 surety required to be justified. And this is one we'll also be keeping an eye on, Alfred.
Indeed, and before we get into the business news this evening here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7, the Ghana Gold Board has officially revoked all gold trading licenses previously issued by the Precious Minerals Marketing Company, PMMC, and the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources. Addressing journalists earlier today, Acting Chief Executive of the Gold Board, Sami Jemfi, announced a renewed national crackdown on illegal gold trading smuggling activities in the country.
Gold Board licensing regime has taken full effect, and that effective immediately. Only a Ghanaian who has gone through the lay-down due process and has been issued with a license by the Ghana Gold Board can legally engage in gold trading in Ghana. What that simply means is that if you are not licensed by the Ghana Gold Board, you are committing a crime if you buy gold or you engage in any form of gold trading. All the previous licenses that various traders involved in gold trading had from the defunct Precious Minerals Marketing Company, PMMC, and the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources have all been revoked by the Ghana Gold Board Act. And we will no longer continue to respect those licenses. So whereas we allowed various stakeholders to buy gold, to trade gold with their previous PMMC licenses or licenses to deal in gold issued by the minister responsible for mines, same is not the case as we speak today.
Sami Jemfi is acting CEO of the Ghana Gold Board. This is Hot Edition. We're back shortly with the business news. Bismarck Ewusa is standing by. Stay with us.
3FM, baby fair. Mommy, take me there.
Parents, mark your calendars. It's the 3FM Baby Fair happening live on the 11th to the 13th of July at Marina Mall Airport City in Accra from 10 a.m. and it's absolutely free. From baby essentials and kids wear to toys, skincare, educational material, and so much more. Shop amazing deals on a wide range of childcare products all under one roof. Don't miss our sessions with the Ghana Pediatric Society and all the amazing mums with the Mum Circle, a safe space for young mothers to share tips and connect. And there will be fun activities for the kids with our Kids Corner, games for the family, good food, and great vibes all around. To be a vendor, please call 0531 100 927 or 0532 200 927. It's the 3FM Baby Fair, your one-stop event for all your child care needs.
Hello, good evening and welcome to the business segment on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7 with me, Bismarck Ewusa. Coming up tonight, Economic Policy Institute demands full disclosure from Bank of Ghana over ban on 10 money transfer firms. We'll bring you details. Thanks for your company. Now to the very first story. The Institute of Economic and Research Policy is taking on the Bank of Ghana, demanding detailed accountability over the central bank's decision to ban 10 money transfer organizations, saying the lack of transparency undermines public trust in financial regulation. The following 3 Business News Desk report has the details. The Institute of Economic and Research Policy, IERPP, is calling on the Bank of Ghana to come clean on the exact reasons behind its recent ban on 10 money transfer organizations, or MTOs, for what it's described as severe regulatory violations. While the central bank's move has been hailed as bold and necessary for protecting consumers and sanitizing the financial system, the Institute says the absence of specific details about the breaches is deeply troubling. In a statement, Executive Director of the IERPP, Professor Isaac Boedi, said, banning violators without providing the why amounts to opacity, not proper regulation. He further warned that regulation without clarity and a path to rehabilitation risks breeding exclusion rather than compliance. The research group is demanding answers on the nature of the violations, what sanctions were imposed, and whether the affected companies were given due process or an appeal window. The call comes at a time when Ghana is tightening oversight of financial and tech platforms, with remittance inflows exceeding $4.6 billion last year. The IERPP says openness and public engagement must go hand in hand with enforcement. And that was a 3 Business News Desk report. Before we go, the Chamber of Oil Marketing Companies, COMAC, says fuel prices at the pump will rise from Tuesday, July 1, ending a 7-month streak of reductions. The chamber says petrol is likely to increase by 2% and diesel by 5%. At a press briefing earlier today, Chief Executive Dr. Riverson Opon said the hike is based on a thorough analysis of market indicators, including the National Petroleum Authority's price build-up.
Basically, we are looking at a two system that are both very, very relevant in terms of looking at the pricing outlook. However, one thing we've seen in this country, and I believe that I can say that emphatically today, when fuel prices were going up, most of the calls I had was why the fuel prices were going up and we don't see that effect in the pump price. And that's why I always say that we are in a country where it takes time for global benchmark prices to have effect on our pump prices. So at the same time, when fuel prices are going down, please, media houses, be patient with us. That it takes time to outsell those that we had bought when fuel prices were up in terms of the international benchmark prices. So we are looking at just 2% increase in petrol and LPG around 1%, but I think diesel is around 5%. I need to check my figure, which we are concluding today. We will surely make the reports ready available.
And that was Dr. Riverson Opon, who is Chief Executive of the Chamber of Oil Marketing Companies. And that brings us to the end of the Business News on Hot Edition. With me, Bismarck Ausa. For more business stories, please check out our website, 3news.com. Sports is next. Please stay.
Let's now do some sports here on 3FM's Hot Edition with me, Mutala Yakobo. Now, starting off, Ghana Premier League giants Hearts-of-Oak have officially unveiled Masoud Didi Dramani as their new head coach until 2027. The former Black Stars assistant coach has penned down a 2-year deal with the Phobians, and he replaces Abubakar Ouattara ahead of the 2025-2026 football season. Now, Didi Dramani, together with Abdul Ghazali, who will serve as the first team assistant coach, were unveiled at the Commercial Center in Accra. The newly formed technical team will test their prowess when they come up against Asante Kotoko in the 2025 President Cup at the Accra Sports Stadium this Sunday. Now let's hear from the new manager of Hearts-of-Oak, Masoud Didi Dramani.
I want to say that I'm honored to also serve in the realms of Accra Hearts-of-Oak. I try to understand the vision of the board, which is the direction of the club, and trying to institute a clear direction with consistency and sustainability. And we'll try as much as possible to put in place a more progressive development approach. And so we acknowledge what had been instituted over these years. It is for us to keep the consistency and keep improving structures, more importantly, very comprehensive technical programs that will improve individuals and also the team.
Masoud Didi Dramani is the new head coach of Accra Hearts-of-Oak. Let's do some women's football, where the Black Queens suffered a 3-1 defeat to Nigeria in their final warm-up match ahead of the 2024 Women's Africa Cup of Nations, that is the WAFCON. The game played yesterday at the La Nourou complex in Morocco was the 9th preparatory fixture for the Queens as they gear up for their return to the continental stage, having missed the last 2 editions since 2018. Now, despite the defeat, Black Queens team media officer, that is Matilda Dimedo, remains confident that Ghana is ready to make an impact in Morocco.
The atmosphere in camp have been generally good. we just wrap up our preparatory matches with a game against Nigeria. Even though we lost in that game, we are still focused on the bigger picture. And the bigger picture is to go to the WAFCON, perform, make ourselves proud, and make Ghana proud as well. And that is what our main focus is. As it stands now, the team is preparing to take off from Ben Slimani to our base in Uja, in a city called Siada. So the team is preparing to take off. Apart from that, we've named our 24 queens who will be representing the nation, our goalkeeping, our defense, our midfield, and our forwards. For me, I think generally we have an all-round squad. All the ladies are ready, and that they will go to the WAFCON and do well and make themselves proud.
The Black Queens will kick off their campaign in the Women's AFCON on the 7th of July when they come up against the Bayana of South Africa. And before we go, a host of clubs, including Chelsea, Palmeiras, Bayern Munich, and PSG, have all booked their tickets to the quarterfinals of the Club World Cup. Another team that will be hoping to join the party in the quarterfinals is former champions, that is Manchester City. They will be taking on Al Hilal. And there's also Juventus against Real Madrid, all coming up. And that brings us to the end of the sports updates here on 3FM's Hot Edition. My name is Mutala Yakubu.
This is 3FM.
Well, you're still live on Hot Edition. My name is Christabel Success Trevor. And just before we go, the minority in Parliament has strongly criticized the Economic and Organized Crime Office, YOCO, over the arrest and bail conditions imposed on Alhaji Abdul Hanan Wahab, who is the former CEO of the National Food Buffer Stock Company and New Patriotic Party, parliamentary candidate for the Pusiga constituency in the 2024 general elections. In a press statement issued over the weekend, the minority described the treatments of Mr. Wahab and his wife as unacceptable and politically motivated, warning against what they say is a growing trend of state institutions being used to settle political scores. And this is where we end Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. I've been doing this with Alfred Ocansey, and my name is Christabel Success Trevor. Trigmatic and DJ Faculty with the 3FM Drive team are standing by.